Hi everyone, hope you're okay, you all had a nice Easter. So it's been a while since we had a chapter of the story. This book, there's a Yeti in the playground. And last time we left the friends, the characters, who were in the middle of a snowstorm, had gone over to the library cabin to see if they could find out about Yetis. And one of the other boys, Gary, had tagged along, but now Gary has gone missing. So let's find out what happens next. This chapter is called Post-it Tornado. When I walked out of the porter cabin, I knew that we were in deep trouble because the snow was blowing and swirling everywhere. Maisie was the last person in the human chain, and as soon as she stepped outside, the blizzard blew all of the post-it notes off her coat and made a sort of colourful tornado. It was chaos. Jodie was shouting at everyone to hold the line because Zack had let go of Maisie's hand and was jumping around trying to catch the post-its. And I had let go of Jodie's hand so that I could get to Maisie because she was shaking violently and screaming, "It's a whiteout! It's a whiteout!" at the top of her lungs over and over. And that's when I heard something. A weird wailing sound. I spun around, but I couldn't see anything because of the blizzard. So I looked to see if Jodie had heard it, and that's when I realised that I couldn't see Jodie or Zack anymore. And it was impossible to tell what was ground and what was sky because everything just looked completely white. That's when Jodie yelled, "Izzy!" And Maisie started shouting, "Is anyone there? Is anyone there?" So I grabbed her hand and squeezed so she would know I was there. At least, I thought it was her hand, but it's hard to tell with 4 pairs of gloves on. And that's when Maisie screamed at the top of her lungs, "The Yeti! It's here! It just grabbed my neck!" After that, it was total chaos. Zack was screaming, "Where is it? Where is it? I can't see!" And I was trying to tell him that it wasn't a Yeti that had touched Maisie's neck and that it was me, but he wasn't listening. And Jodie was shouting, "Humpback whale! Humpback whale!" Because humpback whale is Maisie's code name that we use when things go seriously wrong. But Maisie was gone. She must have run away from me really fast, and I knew she could be miles away by now. That's when we all heard it. A high-pitched Yeti cry, and it sounded close. So Jodie shouted, "Run for your life!" So we did. As soon as we burst through the big doors to the school, Jodie yelled, "Top floor!" And Zack yelled, "We can't leave Maisie out there!" But Jodie said that we weren't and that she left no man behind. And then she ran up the stairs. I had no idea what was going on and I was starting to panic because it really did seem like we were leaving Maisie outside with a hungry Yeti. And we still didn't know if Gary had made it back safely or not. But then Jodie yelled, "Trust me!" And I looked at Zack and he looked at me and I nodded because I know that Jodie is a bit of an expert in emergency situations. So we ran after Jodie and none of us stopped until we reached the top floor. I was exhausted when we got to the top and I actually had to lie down on the ground a bit and catch my breath. That's when Zack said, "What's going on, Jodie?" And Jodie pointed out the window. And that's when we realised why Jodie had brought us up there. You could see the whole playground from the top floor. We all stared out into the snow. And Jodie said, "We probably won't be able to see Maisie because of her coat, so look for footprints." And then Zack pointed at what looked like a bunch of footprints halfway between the cabin library and the school and said, "That's us, look." And he was right, because if you looked really closely, you could see the footprints coming back towards the big doors. Then Zach said, "We need to get down to the next floor. I think I can see something." And then he ran off. So we followed him. And when we got there, Zach pointed and said, "Yes, look, tiny footprints." And that's when we saw a pair of tiny footprints going all the way from the bit where we had been standing to the old bike shed. And then I noticed another pair of footprints near the library cabin that went out for a bit and then disappeared behind the cabin. And I said, "Look, that must be Gary. He's still out there." So Jody said, "Let's go." But Zach said, "Wait, follow me." And he ran off in the opposite direction, and I had no idea where he was going. And I wished everyone would stop saying, "Follow me," and then running off without actually saying where we were going. So we followed Zach all the way to the gym and watched as he went into the store cupboard without permission and came out with a giant net. And then he looked up at us with wide eyes and said, "Yeti trap." Then he ran back into the cupboard and came out with 2 badminton rackets and said that explorers in the book had had tennis rackets stuck to their shoes to make it easier to walk in the heavy snow, but that we didn't have any tennis rackets since tennis got banned from our school after someone accidentally hit a tennis ball at the head teacher's car and broke the little mirror thing on the side. But then Jody said that the explorers in the book hadn't had tennis rackets tied to their shoes and that was ridiculous. So Zach said, "Oh, really?" And Jody said, "Yes." And Zach said, "Oh, really?" And Jody said, "Yes." And Zach said, "Oh, really?" And I'd had enough of all this, so I said, "Just show us, Zach." So Zach opened the book and pointed to the picture, and Jody didn't say anything after that because the explorers did have tennis rackets tied to the bottom of their shoes, so Zach was right. Zach said that he needed some string to tie the rackets to his shoes, but Jody said that there wasn't time to look for string, and then she opened her bag and brought out a roll of really thick sellotape and said that Zach would just have to use that instead. And before Jody could zip her bag back up, I saw that she had loads of stuff in there, like a torch and the rations bag, and I'm sure I saw a pair of handcuffs. So Zach took the sellotape, and then he put a foot on each badminton racket and wrapped the sellotape round and round his foot until he could walk with the badminton racket stuck to his feet. Then he looked at us and said, "Your turn, hurry." So we ran into the store cupboard and grabbed more badminton rackets and did the same. And I took 3 pairs of swimming goggles too to help us see in the blizzard. But it was really hard to walk because the long handles at the back kept hitting each other and I nearly fell over. But Zach said that it would be better once we got outside in the snow. And then he said, "Let's go." And he tried to run like we usually do when we do our missions and need to get places fast. But it didn't work this time because he tripped and fell and we had to help get him up. Oh dear, poor Zach. Jody stopped and put her hand on her stomach, and I knew that she still wasn't feeling very well, even though she wasn't saying anything. And to be honest, I was feeling a bit sick myself because we were basically going on a Yeti expedition in the playground. So we all just walked really carefully towards the big doors, and Zach said that he thought we needed to jump into the snow for the Explorer badminton shoes to work and to not get stuck because the snow was really thick on the ground now. And then just as we got to the doors, we heard footsteps, and we knew that it was Mrs. Seath, the scary deputy head, because of the click-clicking sound her shoes make. And that meant she was trying to track us down. So Jody pushed open the doors and we jumped out into the snow. And the next chapter's called Badminton Racket Shoes. So we'll find out if those shoes actually work in the snow and if they actually find a Yeti next time. See you then. Bye.